How are you guys? Right? Everybody's good? We had a great session. I was told to say we had a great session that we just came out of. So here's what interests me. Okay? What interests me is what interests you. Okay? So tell me this. As I was talking to one of your teammates here earlier today, and I said, what do you want to talk about today? Right? I always think, because we have offices in Charlotte, in Orlando, and in West Palm. And we build and we develop product in Atlanta, obviously Charlotte, Greenville, big in Savannah, because that port's just on fire. And all the Florida markets, in Tampa, in Orlando, in South Florida. So I'm a Southeast guy. Why? Pretty easy. The Great Northeast is growing at like, over the next 10 years is expected to grow like 2.6%. Okay? Southeast is expected to grow like 11.7. Where do you want to hang out, right? I want to hang out in the Southeast U.S. Plus the sunshine's not so bad. So let me ask you this. I can give you a big presentation, and I've got it. It might put me to sleep in 15 minutes, and you'd be gone by 5. But we'll flip through some of it. But what do you want to talk about today? What kind of questions do you have? And if we can kind of frame where you want to go, let's go.
I want to know about consistency.
That's what it's all about. Okay, you can't read it, but I can. What else?
I was going to say, I was curious to know how you decided the more entrepreneurial route was for you, and what are some frameworks that younger folks like us can think about as we're trying to pursue that.
All right, so entrepreneurial versus corporate. Okay, Mike.
What is always on your
Michael,
mind?
what's up? What is that on your face? What are you doing? What are you doing? Oh, you're in college. That's okay.
I'm just curious, what's on your mind on a day-to-day basis?
Okay.
And also, what do you believe to be the most difficult part of your job?
Job. And you said, like, do you mean kind of what keeps me up at night, or what do you think? Or what are you saying?
Sure.
All right, I'm being a little cryptic, but
What's going to be important over the next 20 years?
I like you already. Important over next 20 years. And you know what? We'll break that apart to kind of like, if you don't mind, like, who knows, 20, but maybe we say 5, 10, 15. Is that okay? Okay. Okay, next.
What do you think college students, like in our position, what do you think that we should be focused on after this time?
I was thinking about that driving up here. You guys, I really did get through college. Spell check didn't exist then, but I'm actually considered to be a smart guy. Who's next?
How do you build and nurture relationships in the communities that you're developing?
Great question, Nick. Okay. Next, anybody else?
What do you think the impact of last leg facilities is going to be in the near
Say that
future?
again.
What do you think the impact of like last leg warehouse facilities?
Like last miles.
Yeah, last
Yeah,
mile.
that's what it's all about. That's what's next. Okay. So let's put it right up here, just because it's easy. Anything else? Anything personal? Anything where you're going? Anything?
Like a little bit piggyback on the present focus. Did you always know at a younger age or life experiences brought it together, like vision? present focus.
Why don't we just say consistency and vision? Vision and focus. Is that okay? We can tie this together. Anybody else?
How do you think of strategic planning, whether it's personal, business, or?
It's vital. It's vital. I'll say this. If you have no idea where you're going, you would have no idea if you arrived. And that's just the start of it, okay? Anybody else? Give me one more. Beyond one more, or two more.
What do you think the collateral or tangential effects of the inflation will be on real estate?
Good question. I had a conference call about that coming up. Effects of inflation. Did I capture it?
Correct.
Ramifications. Like I said, you can't read it, hardly can I, but I know what it says. And there's one more.
The major challenges you face in the industry today.
Okay. Is that good? Kind of, and look, I am not a presentation guy, right? I can do this, kind of works, but I'm a conversation guy. I am more interested in what you have to say and what you can get out of each other than what I can give, okay? Because all I can give is basically 31 years of experience and a lot of mistakes that have frankly added up to tremendous wins. But without the mistakes, the wins wouldn't be there. So, let me tell you, and I'll really fly through this. Can't imagine that I talk too much, can you? Okay, let's rock and roll. So, wow, she put that up front. Okay, so we got a lot going on, okay? We build, on an average, somewhere between 4 and 7 million square feet a year. All spec, all kind of just friggin' going at it, okay? But there is a method behind all of my madness. Today, I own, and I'll go back really quick. I started this company with $64,000 when I was 29 years old, and I built a gas station. And to be very brief, everybody else got the long version. My wife and I worked behind the counter selling cookies and donuts and sodas, and that led to 36 gas stations, and we went from being pretty much broke to selling our company for about $40 million, just under $40 million, 7 years later. And we were kind of off to the races. But let me tell you, we worked our tails off. We had a little girl in our second year of marriage, and I don't think I saw that kid for 2 years. And it is not how I wanted to run my life, but I was committed to driving a business. You know, there's some number out there that X number of businesses only survive in the first 5 years. Well, I'm in the 31st year, and I still think, God, it's really going well. We're going to survive, right? But it seems to be working out okay. So we're going to talk about land some today, and we'll weave that in there. Right now, we've not including projects, and some of you that came down saw some of our projects, but this year we'll do about 5.1 million square feet. That will. Do they have it up here? Oh, this is all land, is what this is. So that'll run about 600 million. I finance at 60% generally, 55% a lot, and a number of these will be JV deals done with institutions. And don't think I don't understand my role in that. I am just the guy that carries the water. Okay, and we get paid very well to carry the water. But this is my pipeline. We'll talk a little bit about, thoughts of inflation and ramifications, and could there be a recession, and that land today that is 76 million. That's 76 million of 100% paid for land with no partners, and that's worth about 115 million today, because it's land that I bought over the last 3 years. I've been taking through entitlement, and let me tell you, if a redneck kid from South Georgia, from Jessup, Georgia, can make it, let me tell you, each one of you can make it too. And it's all about consistency and determination, okay? Make no bones about it. If it was easy, everybody could do it, okay? But we have been preparing for a recession pretty much for the last 36 months. I would have thought there would have been a recession, decade after decade. Recessions kind of happened every 7 to 8 years. But we're really long in the tooth. And look, the last recession was like a depression. So it kind of took a lot of people's wind away. And I always said, look, we are never going to go through this again as a company. And we're probably truly one of the strongest financially placed privates in the country today. And we are completely ready for any kind of downturn. And I'll tell you a little bit about that later. If you're interested in any of this, we're happy to send it around. This is a data sheet that is put together and updated every quarter, and we really study this, and we're looking to interpolate population trends and migration trends, and I'll share a little bit about that with you today. But I know a guy in this room that will become very comfortable at driving all of this data. So, but this is kind of the smarts of the business, okay? But it's watching, and these are all the markets that we're in on top here: Orlando, Tampa, Polk County. So we're looking at what that could, because it's also about placing dollars, and we're looking to say, okay, where is our best return? Because at the end of the day, everybody thinks that we're this great industrial development company. You know what we are? We're an investment house, right? And we're turning IRR, and that's what we're doing. So we want to drive that IRR, in a really passionate way. Our big comeback was in 2011, following that recession. And I'll tell you a little bit about that, but it may be in here, but our return rate documented is 42% since 2011, okay? So it's been a great run, and we're prepared for a slow. And we may not get it, but you gotta bet on something, and I'm usually gonna bet on me. But if you look at some of these numbers up there, and you look at Charlotte, this is what's interesting. And you go over and you look at quarterly absorption. And let's say you roll down to, where's Savannah? Okay, you look at Savannah, okay, and you look at, isn't that year over year? So get this, I don't see it here because there's just so much data here. But can you believe that Little Savannah is absorbing this past year almost as much as Atlanta? Can you imagine? Right? That's that dynamic port, the fastest growing port in the nation, and we own that town. We will do 8.6 million square feet in Savannah over the next 2 years. We have got the best land positions. I just bought. You'll see it on one of these other slides. But I just bought a 550 acre farm on the Jimmy Deluxe Parkway that is gorgeous. And every time I pull up there, I'm like, oh my God, we're going to tear this down and make it an incredible industrial park. But there's, let me tell you, there's nicely over 150 million in profit there. So it kind of gets my giddy up, right? So a little bit about us. We are ranked as the fourth largest or most active industrial company in the country. We're ranked as overall developers. I think we're ranked and I'll always know this, and this will get me a cup of coffee, and I don't drink coffee. We're ranked in the top, we're ranked number 9 in the nation for development companies, and I do this, are you ready, with 26 people, okay? So, I am not big about people walking around carrying a piece of paper and a pencil. Let's giddy up, right? We third party as much as humanly possible. If it isn't the nexus of what we do, we let someone else do it, okay? Like you look at management companies. Management companies take up a lot of personnel, a lot of accounting and whatnot. But, and they make money. But they don't make the same kind of capital return that you receive in a development deal, okay? Especially a speculative development deal. Is there anything else there? Skin in the game. We are a boots on the ground approach. We are, there are a lot of folks that are at my stage of life that would be in the press box, and I am right in the middle of the field. I am the quarterback, and I just love it. And my job is to make sure everyone in our company scores and is compensated well for scoring. I always think in everything in life, the more you give, the more you get. And I think it comes back tenfold. I'll tell you about skin in the game and JV deals shortly. Investment rationale, I think warehouse is the new retail. They're just incredible drivers. I asked in the last session, how many of you get a box at least once a week, if not 3 or 4 times a week, that comes to the front door? And your parents, right? How much comes to the house? Where do you think it comes from? It comes from a warehouse, okay? And that is what, and that's what the future of retail is, I believe. Rents are up today. This might be a dated slide. Rents year over year are almost 10% up. Is that amazing? It's unbelievable. For us, someone mentioned, I'll keep going back to that consistency. To me, it's all about execution. We have sold just shy of $900 million worth of real estate that I owned over the last, I'd say, maybe a little over 24 months, all prepping and driving cash, right? Being super, super heavy in cash assets. Because if the Fed raises rates, they said they're going to do it 2 or 3 times, right? And we know, pardon me, they always screw it up. Every single time they screw it up, right? It's never, all of this quantitative easing is usually like hitting a brake. And when they hit the brake, we fall into a recession. And then you see, and I'm sure you're talking about it, to all of your other teammates, look at the prices, look at the cap rate compression. Look at what people are paying in different parts of the market. Like, look at what they're paying in Chicago. Look at what they're paying in LA. Look at what they're paying in Miami, right? I mean, these are cap rates, you guys, that are going sub 3. Well, what's the yield on that? And what's the spread, right? Because it's all about the spread. At the end of the day, they might be working off of 35 to 50 basis points. I stay in these tertiary markets because, frankly, I know my place, right? And I'm working on a 150 spread to a 2 spread, right? So every time they do 1 million square foot project, every time, I'm confusing myself. They've got to do 4 projects to equal one of mine. And we do more than anybody else, but we do them at this really incredible margin. Because we're buying the land right, I'm taking entitlement risk. I am that crazy guy that'll pay 15 to 30, 40 million for a piece of land without entitlement. Because I've worked the system and I understand the politics, and I'm betting on me and our team that we can get it done. And knock on wood, never once have we not gotten it done. So it's really it's an interesting dance out there. What did it say about COVID? Yeah, it's the truth. E-commerce is, this e-commerce boom. I mean, if you wonder who prevailed in COVID, And God forbid, who wanted to have COVID? And we all know someone that has passed due to COVID, right? So we would never, ever revel in that. But at the same time, logistics and warehouse has been just a giant power play for COVID because people stayed home, they were ordering more product online. I think it has completely changed and reorganized retail, and that's why we said on the slide before, warehouse is the new retail, and I don't think it goes back. And remember, again, I think I said it before. Look at all the packages that come. They're not coming from stores. They're coming from warehouses, right? Hopefully one of mine is the way I look at it. So e-commerce represents 12 to 15% of retail sales. In fact, it's growing faster than that now. It's on fire today. E-commerce sales will surpass 1.5 trillion by 2025. These numbers are just keep climbing. The big thing is inventory. Part of the growth in industrial is going to be safety stock. And I think there's a slide on this later on. But the whole point of safety stock is it's going to grow warehouse by somewhere around 15 to 20% of present day. Because when you look at this, and remember, before COVID got back on the news, what did we hear? All it was logistics. All of it was supply chain holdups. Well, that must have all evaporated, and it's perfectly fixed now because all they talk about is COVID, right? They're selling whatever's hot for the day. Well, let me tell you, that whole logistics and supply chain holdup is real, right? We're having trouble getting steel. We'll talk a little bit about costs later. We're having trouble getting steel. Roofing material is, I was telling the other group that, I've had steel sitting on the ground, and I mean like $8 million worth of steel sitting there, waiting for the other materials to get there so I could start a project that I'm halfway finished on. It's really disruptive, and the cost is just off the charts. Here's a place that I play, and I don't think a lot of people really look at this way. But I'd say remember this, okay? All we hear about is these big Amazon bombers, right? And I built a number of them. But the truth of the matter is, life is a 15 for industrial. And think of all the mom and pops that are around the country, all the people that are in business in little towns, big towns. By and large, industrial is 15 to 50,000 square foot users. Fort Lauderdale is a perfect example. That's the South Florida market, right? Now they're getting a bunch of bombers that are coming in also. But this has been, I think, the miss over the last 10 years. The market segment under 250,000 square feet represents, under 250,000 square feet. Remember, my average project is 600 to 1.3 million square feet. It's broken up into some smaller buildings because I'll show you there's kind of always a fanny for every seat, right? There's a big box cross dock, there's a rear loader, there's a front loader. I want to be a crowd pleaser, right? I want to have an offering that's very accepting. So the market under 250,000 square feet represents 70%. That is a giant piece of the market, okay? But it's only 17% of deliveries. What does that mean? That means that all of the institutions that are out there that are just driving in Atlanta on 85, think about any large town, right? From 7A north on the Jersey Turnpike into New York, over to Chicago. It's all big bomber buildings. But here's this is the money shot. 17% is where all the margin is. And people wonder, God, how did you guys do this? We did it because we followed the statistics, and the stats matter. And the difference is, I'm not using, like all these institutions and all of these groups that just raise capital, I'm using my capital. So I've got to go for that money shot. And that is right in that space. There's a company that if you've ever thought of looking up, I think one of the best the best institutional development company in the U.S. today is East Group. They're such a fine firm. Just they're my direct competitor. We are great friends, but everything they do so very well. And they build a little bit at a time along the way, and they're just enormously successful. But it's all private money. I mean, it's all public money, but they act like it's private money, and they just do a great job. But they live by this, and I look them up because it's worth looking up. And then this 1 billion of additional online sales equals 1.25 million square feet. If you just look at how e-commerce is growing, you can see how that. Somebody asked about what do you think the demand is, or something. But anyway, that's what's driving demand. Let's see if there's anything else worthwhile talking about. I think it Wednesday, guys. Okay, there you go. It's my daughter. Safety stock. I think I told you about it a little bit earlier, but this is going to be a big deal. People are going to be moving that safety stock. They had thought somewhere around 10%, maybe even a little less. Safety stock is going to go from 15 to 20%. And that, think about just that volume that creates. E-commerce, I think we've talked about that. It's just going crazy. I'll show you. These are all the markets in the southeast that we operate in. We have active development in each one of these places. This is what this works. Yeah, this works. So here's where I live. I'll show you why it is where I live here. See this right here? This heat lamp, this heat map here. Okay, this is Atlanta. This is 85 north to Spartanburg, Greenville, on to Charlotte, and over to Raleigh. All right, just this little area right here. Let me give you an example. It is statistically shown that every human being consumes about 50 square feet a year of consumables. Doesn't matter what your age is, whether you're a little kid, whether you're a baby, you're getting bassinets, you're getting playpens, you're getting cribs, you're getting car seats, you're getting a lot of stuff, right? If you're in college, you're moving in, you're getting, you're getting all of this product that's coming in. If you're starting a household after college, you're buying furniture, you get the point, okay? Well, if the inbound growth just in this corridor is expected to be 4 million people over the next 10 years, okay? If it's true that consumables are 50 square feet, and I hear it everywhere over and over and over, well, that corridor alone is going to demand 200 million square feet of additional warehouse. How about that? Pretty exciting. Now you see why we have an office in Charlotte. Now you see why we operate in Atlanta. Okay? Because we're going to cover up that from an entrepreneurial standpoint, we can move so much faster than everybody else. Same thing. Look at Florida. It's pretty exciting. So I lived in Palm Beach Gardens, Florida for almost 30 years. Okay? And I saw what was happening here. I opened an office in Orlando 10 years ago, maybe 11 years ago. Okay? And then we came to dominate that market in industrial development. Okay? Because what I saw that was going to happen was what you see happening. All of this density coming in, and all of these people were going to require services, which means that product had to be in warehouses. So we started early, and we really went after the market. You see what's happening in South Florida. See this right here? See how dense it is? It's frankly so dense that the opportunity isn't as great there any longer. From a development standpoint, from an investment standpoint, it's phenomenal. But we build product. So we've got to be in a place that we can build product. And you can see, it's not even sketchy. It looks like, what do they call it, the Gold Coast? I think you can see why, because as you fly over it, It is nothing but light. It's kind of like flying into LA. If anybody's ever flown in there, you fly forever and you think, oh my God, I'll be at the airport in any minute, and you're not. It's like flying South Florida. The communities, there's really no distinguishing the communities because they're just end on end on end on end. You go from Jupiter into Palm Beach Gardens into West Palm Beach into into Lake Worth into Lantana into Del Rey. It's just endless, right? So you see why we went after this market so hard. Well, the same thing is happening because of shipping in Savannah. And you look at Savannah, and you look at the hours of trucking of where product is going. That's why Savannah is so important. And if anybody wants to ask a question later about Savannah, I can certainly talk great facts about Savannah and why it's on fire versus the Florida ports, okay, and frankly versus Charleston, okay. Property pipeline, as I said, this is this year's work. About 6.6 million square feet will be built this year. These are projects that are recent developments. You can see there's a similarity to all of them. I am a giant girl daddy. I have 3 daughters and just absolutely adore it. It is way important, more important than my work, but you can see on every single building in the Southeast there are 3 bars, and they are Allie, Megan, and Caroline. And every time I pull up to no matter what city I'm in, and these projects are kind of endless, but there's a theme that goes on, and if you wonder why all of our projects are always voted the finest products in the market, and they have a tendency to look a little bit like retail. It's because I want everything to be, anything I touch, I want it to be a better place to live. A couple of big projects. If we can talk about financing real quick. This was roughly 1.3 million square feet. A lot of you saw this when you came down to Orlando. We built this. We built all of this, and we built 100% of it spec. You can imagine this was a giant undertaking. I did this project with a British billionaire. We are 50-50. He developed and created a project called Lake Nona, and he went around the country looking for a developer and talked to all of the institutions and chose us. I think he chose us because of our spirit, because of our ability to move quickly, and frankly our execution capability and our strong breadth of history of successful projects. But this project, and I'll give you a 2-second story on this. So you guys have seen, and I'm sure in your classes you've been talking about interest rates, right? And they have been at an all-time low. So we started this project, and I'll just lay out the brief case study. We valued the land at $46 million, roughly $46 million, and they got a capital account on the project of $23 million, and I wrote a check for $23 million. Okay, and that made me a 50% landowner. Okay, and then we obviously had to put a lot more capital in, and we did it just solo. We didn't bring in a partner for it. And we built this whole thing out. Some of you met Monica Wonis from CBRE. She is an unbelievable broker. She's the #1 woman broker in the state of Florida, and she is just so impressive. Came out of the banking industry and gave up all her salary and went full commission, and I can tell you she's a 7-figure woman every year now. But I love working with her. We finished phase 1 of the project. That was these buildings and these buildings. Right as, what was it, March 2 years ago when COVID hit? So we finished it, we had no tenants, she went to work, going at it, we completely leased it up with all pedigree tenants. all during COVID. With that, in the middle of COVID, we started phase 2, and I never start phase 2 until I'm 50% phase 1. We built and spec'd out this building here and started construction on it. Many of you have been in this building. And guess what? FedEx came to town because COVID had created this giant demand of delivery. And we scored FedEx for 15 years in this building. Okay? Wasn't a build-to-suit, ended up being a build-to-suit. We, Frito-Lay, guess what? Everybody was staying home, and it was like every night was a party. We're a big wine family, and there's probably in our home today probably 1,700, 1,800 bottles of wine. And let me tell you, my daughters thought it was a party every single night. It was unbelievable. And I was like, you guys have to go. I can't afford you to be here anymore. Frito-Lay took this, and then Frito-Lay came back because the demand for consumption was so big. They took 2 buildings with 2 separate divisions. Pitney Bowes came in and immediately got into the delivery business. Pitney Bowes, stamps, right? Weighing machines, okay? And now they're a big player in the, somebody said last mile before, in the last mile delivery, okay? This became last mile delivery, and everything is 100% leased except this building. And everything, I went after only pedigree players. We took the position that we were going to tell a lot of people, no, they couldn't lease from us. We made this a pedigree play. We are the highest prices in the Orlando Central Florida market. It is the best looking industrial product in the market. You see it looks darn near like retail. And landscape is super big for me, right? I think it drives occupancy. I just think it drives cap rate compression and sale. And to me, it's all about velocity. So here's the long story short. This project created, with my 50-50 partner, I guess I'll say it, created a little over $125 million in value from nothing, okay? This project, we refied. I'm always making a selection whether I want to refi it and keep it, and I always assume we'll just keep it forever. My kids will own it, or do we monetize it and see where that goes in the markets. We elected to keep this. We landed a 10-year fixed debt with Lincoln Financial. Are you ready for this? 10 years fixed, non-recourse, for 2.63%. I like that, right? And I think some of you met Melissa Rose, who is this tiger lady. She's a former New York ballerina, and I hired her, and I gave her roughly $600 million in debt to do this year. And I've always, 100% of my career, done all my debt myself with our legal team. And interestingly enough, I couldn't have gotten that rate on my own. So what's the message there? Know as soon as possible how to get out of the way of you, right? Because it has taken me a long time to get out of the way of me. I'll go through. This was roughly 2 million square feet. What is this? Yeah, so 1.7. Yeah, 1.7. This I built all spec, and this was I bought an acre. I bought a mile on the Florida Turnpike. Again, every time we buy, I want the best real estate, and I'm willing to pay up for it because it does drive success. If you cheap out on you'll cheap out on everything in life. Do not cheap out, right? If you can only have one pair of shoes, have the best pair of shoes, right? So this was a project. We spec'd out the 1.7 million square feet. We built like crazy. Again, we look pretty good because we're in a rising tide market. Probably everybody could look good. The difference is the tenacity that you put into it. This was a deal that was under, it was spoken for by a major REIT. in fact, the REIT in those days, it was Duke, okay? And their lawyers spent 2.5 months trying to put together an LOI and arguing with the land seller. The land seller happened to be the family that put together all of the land for Disney. They were the broker on it. So it was a really skilled family. They understood it. It was a granddaughter of the person that had done all that, but had always been in the real estate business. Lived in Richmond, Virginia. I got a call from one of my brokers, who is one of the best in Orlando with JLL. And he says, I think there's a crack in the armor. I called my wife. I said, can you pack me like 2 days of clothes and I'll meet you at the airport? She said, where are you going? I said, I'm not sure yet, but just meet me there. I ended up flying to Richmond. They said she liked really great wine. I went to a store. I bought $250 bottles of wine, and I went and knocked on her door. And at first I was kind of getting thrown out. And I said, well, I heard there was this, and I flew up here just to see you, and if you can just spend 5 minutes with me. I spent 2 days, and I came back with the contract. This deal made $105 million in profit, okay? Because you got up and you went and chased it. And that's what you got to always do. You got to chase it and chase it and chase it and just be relentless. And that's the difference a lot of time between the institution or an institutional mindset. Somebody asked about that. That's the difference between an entrepreneurial mindset and an institutional mindset. I had said it before. You guys all know Nathan Collier, who is a great guy, and I've known through IPO for 23 years. Let me tell you, you compare that and you just pick there's so many great apartment companies out there, right? The mindset's completely different. Let me tell you, the institutional guys go home at 5 o'clock. We can sign up for government jobs. We're 7 to 7. And if you want anything in life, you better go chase it, because it ain't happening between 8 and 5. Guaranteed. Okay? I mean, the real work actually happens after 5 o'clock. So, but this is another example of getting out there and pressing it, being a little, and don't think that I don't worry that, oh my God, is this going to work out? But we've learned so much from our mistakes over the years, and we've made those mistakes with our own capital, not with institutional capital. So it's been interesting. And this was the guy that would never ever sell. The white spot you see right here, well, guess what? We started construction on that in 2 months. We bought it just before Christmas. And that'll complete the park. This was one we just did, filled up with FedEx and LKQ. This was a really wonderful project with a kind of new look, a little bit of a new look. Probably was a little bit of you, I get that. This was a remnant piece that came out of a relationship where a friend was losing a building, and he had asked me to buy the building so we wouldn't lose it. And the idea is it's a great developer, one of my best friends out of Boca Raton, and because of the quality of the relationship, he said, this thing's going to be a disaster. Why don't you take this little piece of land? I'll keep your 800 grand, and you take this piece of land. And we ended up building it, leasing it, selling it to an institution. It was a really good deal. We're doing this in West Palm Beach on airport leased land from the FAA. And the first 2 buildings are 100% leased, all build spec, and we're working on phase 2. Malcolm Butters Development, one of my very best pals, is doing this construction for me. And just I'll kind of flip through some of this. I was going kind of after a movie theater look on this one, and it worked out and filled with all institutional quality. This is on Florida Turnpike. We went after a real kind of I was going after an office feel here, but the rates ended up being $1.14 on the average over what we had performed, and we sold this to we sold this to Teachers Insurance. It was a big project that went to Nuveen, and this was a spec project. I'll show you just how friendships work. This was a deal that I was doing. I thought I was going to have Lowe's for the entire building. The nation's largest trucking company is a company called NFI. Their chairman is a great buddy of mine, and And he came down and he said, just on a handshake, would you go do all this? I spent about $500,000 putting in stoplights, expanding the roadway, doing all of this, because we really thought we had Lowe's. The deal ended up crashing and burning, and I was holding a $500,000 bill. He is a great pal. I never asked him for a dime, because I would have had to do the work anyway over a couple of years. It was just very untimely. I'll flip past this and get to the rest of that story because it's kind of interesting. Where is it? Anyway, long story short, I had just built a 500,000 square footer in Charlotte. The front of the newspaper basically said I was out of my mind crazy. It would never lease. Who would be so crazy to do something like that? We CO'd. I was chairing an industrial conference with that trucking company guy, and he and his brother called me and said, "Are you in your room?" And I said, "Yeah, I just got into town." And we were in the St. Regis in Atlanta. He walked in the room. We started talking a little bit. He reaches into the pocket and he goes, "How much was the?" He goes, "You never asked me this. How much was the soft cost for all of that work?" I said, "It's about $250,000. He goes, "That's what I thought." Pulls out of his pocket $250,000 and hands it to me. And I thought to myself, and he goes, "And that's not the end of it. You never said a word. All you did was treat us nice and be the kind of friend that we want to have." And he goes, "I need 500,000 square feet in Charlotte." And he goes, "I know you finished yesterday a 500,000 square footer in Rock Hill." He goes, "I'll take 100% of it for Amazon." We structured a lease on the back of one of those little pads and called my in-house legal, and I said, "Paper this thing by tomorrow." And we had a lease signed for by the end of the next day for 500,000 square feet in a 10-year deal. So if you wonder how consistency works in relationships, being nice and saying yes is really profitable, frankly. This was a deal we just did in Tampa. We sold to Aries. Logistics 16. This is a 550-acre farm that I bought earlier this year. We will do overall, and it says 5.4, 5.5 million. There is a wet area right here that I know I'm going to be able to dry out, and that elasticity is going to press this to 5.3 million square feet. This will be the largest project in the Savannah market. And the big thing that's happening, somebody asked about change. The big thing that's happening is parking. And we can talk about parking more later, but we have tons of parking on this site. And these 3 buildings will be starting in the next 60 days here in phase 1. Because I went through a recession, I negotiated this deal in a 10-year graduated takedown. And the market today is $300,000 per acre. I landed all this land at $118 an acre. So this is going to be a really wonderful opportunity. It's a deal that another Savannah deal. It's just knowing the market, and this deal we finished this building and this building. And we leased them all up within about 3 weeks. It's hard to believe, but 507,000 square footer and a 220, and boom, it's gone. If I could have had these buildings up, and due to supply chain holdups, and we're waiting for roof material because we want it on the ground before we start. This will be a nice deal. And I'll flip through some of this. This was a North Atlanta. This is another Savannah deal. This is an Atlanta deal. This is up 85. This is that 500,000 square footer that leased on the back of a napkin, basically. And this was a very exciting deal. And as soon as we did it, we put it into the markets and we sold it. This is another, we're all about the airports, and again, being up front, these buildings sit right on the airport at CLT in Charlotte. And it kind of goes on and on and on and on. So we'll we'll get past this, and yeah, we should move past that, right? But you know what? It's every day. It's being considerate to the market. We do a ton of charity work. My big thing is truly, I believe, the more you give everyone, the more you get. We have fed over 100,000 people this past year, and we'll do the same this year. And we have a really wonderful charity called Give, Care, Share, and we do it. Interestingly enough, we do it at our projects. So there is kind of a method behind my madness, right? We do it at our projects, and I work with Farm Share and Feeding America, and and what we do is basically bring in a truckload of food. And you would not believe the cars are sometimes lined up a mile to a mile and a half back. And you wouldn't believe, everything from, food that we would all want in our own house. And I sometimes see something really good and I'll say, I want to take that. She'll be like, you're not going to take that. I'm like, we paid for that. I'm taking that. She goes, yeah, over my dead money. And, it all comes, it's all worked through the government, but it's a lot of fun, and it gives us great exposure. We always invite all of our city councilmen or commissioners and mayors and everything. It always gets tons of press. So it is all about the giving, but I will tell you at the end of the day, we get so much back from it just from doing it, and it's a lot of fun for us. This happened to be, I think this picture is from a Savannah or a Charlotte give back. But for me, I have to tell you, it's all about team tenacity and talent. You can say it any way you want, but I would just encourage you, in all things, you hear that saying, and I don't know why we hear it more lately, well, I'll figure it out, I'll just fake it till I make it. You might hear that saying kind of a lot lately. Let me tell you, don't fake it, because you're just kidding yourself. Do the thing. I get up, and I always say I work for free, because I make the same salary I did 20 years ago. Never have had a raise, never wanted a raise, right? Everybody understands what their base is in our company, and we cap salaries at 125 grand, and they will never, ever be higher. But the bonuses will light you up, because the bonuses can be 4, 5, 6, 7 times that. And it is fun writing those checks and seeing people that are completely aligned with the, I want them to be able to put food on the table, pay their rent, and have gas in their car. And then I want them to completely align with me entrepreneurially, and then wildly profit from it. It's kind of the old Trump program, which has been, they clearly created the industrial park and the office park, right? And that's, it's fun watching everybody win and rally together. It makes it a very collegial group of folks. So let's go to your questions, okay? And then so somebody asked a question about last month. Okay. So life has been a hub and spoke for the last 100 years. And the hub for the Southeast has been Atlanta, right? And everything went to Atlanta and was distributed south. It didn't matter, everything including Maine. The difference is today the hubs have changed to what I would call the secondary markets. Secondary markets in the Southeast, or let's just start up left, is Nashville, Charlotte, right? Orlando, right? And I don't even mean Memphis, but you look at these, and you look at the expansion in Orlando along the I-4 corridor and along the I-95 corridor. South Orlando was full. It was the place everybody wanted it to be. Now it's all branching up to the northwest quadrant of Orlando, up what's called the 429. I bought on the when was it? Probably the 21st of last month, right before Christmas. I paid $17 million, and I bought a 100-acre orange grove, right at the cusp of the 417 and the the 429 and the 414, okay? So again, giant visibility. Yes, we got it at a better price than most because we took it and rezoned the whole thing ourselves, okay? And we do all of that in-house. I never go to an outside attorney because I'm not willing to wait for someone to get to my lease or my product 2 or 3 days from now. If it comes in the morning, the lease has to be out by the afternoon. So it's everything in our company is based on execution. And if you're going to run with us, I always say, get up early. So that's what's happening. And the spokes are all the tertiary markets where the last mile is going right now. So that's what's making, you might have read that Amazon pulled back on like 64, they canceled 64 deals in the market. They canceled the deals because, frankly, they're tired of renting and going through all of this, and they want to do it all themselves, and they've got the capital to do it. So that's what's happening. So the Amazon development play will become a land play, okay? But that last mile is where the capital's made. The big box bombers, the distribution hubs, they're going to be priced like commodities. It's hard to believe that a 500 million square foot building 18 months ago was about $27 a foot. Okay, raw cost shell. Would you believe it's like 54 today? Is that unbelievable? Right, and that's what's driving cost. Consistency, vision, focus. You know what? I have this little saying I say to myself every day. It's a Dale Carnegie saying. It goes, I know people in the ranks who will stay in the ranks. You want to know why? I'll tell you why. Simply because they haven't the ability to get things done. I say it to myself every day, and I learned it at like 25 in a Dale Carnegie class. But if you're going to win, you hear me say, giddy up, or, you better get up early. My first conference call this morning was at 6:15, right? But it's also with the #1 investment guy in the Southeast U.S., and you can bet he might have been on his second one already, right? It just depends on how you want to play the game. And it's as I always say, it's like real life Monopoly. You're really moving pieces, and you want to have great pieces to move. But it's about the consistency. I don't care if it's the consistency of polishing your shoes in your presentation. Yes, I am still that redneck that every Saturday afternoon drags out 4 or 5 pairs of shoes that I've done for the week, and I clean them up, and I went up to, and you know what? My wife always says, if this doesn't work out, you can work at an airport. So, but, I'm that guy, right? And it doesn't matter how well you do. I was the guy that was doing that at 8 years old with my dad on the back porch in Mobile, Alabama, or some little construction town that we lived in. But it's the consistency. The more, I also always say consistency is about doing the right things right more than anyone else, more often than anyone else. So don't fake it till you make it. Be true to yourself. Be that person that's driving that passion. If you want to be in business and you think you want that career, find that company. And our company is that company because we want to train people to go chase their passions. Hopefully, and perhaps that means that they're running a Charlotte office eventually, or they're running Atlanta, or they're living in Savannah, right? Or they're in Boca or in South Florida. It all works for me. I want them to be where they're happy, because wherever they're happy is where they're going to produce the most, right? And wherever the greatest opportunity is where you're going to produce the most. You can learn a lot working for institutions, but it's kind of like, interns in our office are really doing real work and really analyzing product and figuring out how to make deals and being in on deal discussions. Where, my son-in-law happens to work at Price Waterhouse, and he said, during his internship, he thought that he just got, and he is the youngest guy just made manager in the country, and he just got it at 27 years old. So he's doing phenomenal. But, he goes, one day I'm going to want to come home and probably be here. he would be a good president for us. I just actually think it'll never happen. But it's that consistency of staying in the game no matter what you're doing. Vision. So vision, I think, goes with strategic planning. We do strategic planning every 90 days. Most people, when they hear that, think it's absolutely absurd. Let me tell you, people that do a strategic planning session once a year, everybody forgot about it 60 to 90 days after that. Nobody's thinking about it at all. You know, and maybe they're not thinking about their KPIs, maybe they're not thinking about any of it. Our massive growth has happened because we're doing strategic planning every 90 days. And we're doing 360s every 30 days. And we're checking the boxes. And we're talking about what's good, what's bad, what's promising, what's disappointing, and how we get there together. You know? But it's that, again, it's that consistency. And the focus has got to be, you know, you can't be everything to everybody. You know, the focus is we do industrial. I built one office building that I happened to sell to a pro golfer in one of my parks. And it was at the onset of the recession in 2008. I was going to take 25% of the office building, which is the only reason we built it. But notwithstanding that, we've been tried and true industrial, and we'll put ourselves against anybody. Because, like I said, we've made all the mistakes. We're focused. We're passionate, you know, and I got to tell you, it is fun working with a really super smart, fun group of really kind, considerate people that got a burning desire to get things done. You know, entrepreneurship versus corporate. It's hard to guess how I feel about that, right? You know, you got to go where your heart leads you, and everyone. You know, I am not wired for corporate life. You know, I might not always be the best rule follower, right? But we're gonna try really, really hard, and we're gonna put in all the extra effort. And the hours don't matter; they don't even exist. Saturday, Sunday, who cares? Whatever it takes to get it done. And if we're organized the way we should be, I can't tell you the last time somebody worked a Saturday, right? Maybe we sold, I don't know, before Christmas, we sold probably $300+ million worth of product. And I think we all came in one Sunday for probably 5 hours, and that hasn't happened in years, you know, or a Saturday in years. But we all know that when the chips are on the table, we got to chase it, and we're going to all do it together. But great companies out there. There's Prologis, I mentioned East Group, so many companies that are institutionally based. It's a different life. It's a really good life. It's clearly, let me tell you, a safer life. But you know, every day our offices feel like they're pretty collegial-like, you know, and it's so much fun watching people succeed and helping them succeed and learn and seeing them benefit personally, you know, whether it's a new car or a home or something, but it's fun helping people go after what their dreams are and being able to make a difference in it. Difficult part of the job. Boy, difficult part of the job. So, you know, I am kind of, you know, because we've got a lot of risk out there, and like I may have said before, you really get used to the risk. I think the things that wake me up at night are, you know, I'm that person that I feel like there's like 3 conversations going on in my head all the time. You know, because you're thinking about this project and this thing and, you know, getting my daughter settled in a new apartment, and my eldest daughter is going to have a baby in 4 months, and you know, and there's a lot of responsibility that just goes along with life. The things that keep me up at night and the hard part of my job is how do we continue to do it better? You know, how do we how do I imagine what a warehouse should be 5, 10, 15 years from now, and where delivery is going. I worry about product deliveries. I worry about my partners, because if I am anything in life, I'm a loyalist. In the Great Recession, crazy to say, I was, kind of blown away. I always felt during that recession that, and some of you watched it kind of happen in your own households, but it seemed like the plane was loaded and it just kept going down. But it didn't crash. You just kept being afraid, and it just kept going down. And we went through, all told, I probably lost $100 million. And remember, I started this with 64 grand. And we were 90 days from running out of our very last dollar. And I had 2 of my daughters were in college, and I had told our daughter at UNC that she was going to have to come home, and our daughter at Alabama that she was going to have to come home. And I figured we would lose our house, we'd lose our cars, and I would figure out how to start over. And because of the consistency and the vision and the focus on getting through, I spent 18 months with my CFO going to New York once a month and working. We would split up. He'd take 4 Wall Street houses, I would take 4, and we would get together after lunch for 2 or 3. And then we couldn't even afford to stay overnight. And we would, and this was in 2010, kind of the ugliest part of the recession. And our banker came to us, a chairman of one of the largest U.S. banks, and said, "You've done everything right. You've been transparent. You've met with us every month, and I met with them every 2 weeks, and I was meeting with them every week. And you just drive numbers and show them." Because we didn't create this recession, but we were dealing with it. But we went through all our capital, and the long and the short, the reward of doing what was right. They said, "Look, if you, we're in trouble now. We need to move $1 billion worth of debt off our books." They went to all their best customers that treated them right, and treated them kind and respectfully, and never threatened to sue, frankly. We've had 1 lawsuit in 31 years, and we didn't create it, but we certainly finished it. But long and short, they said, "We'll give you a $12 million discount if you move the debt in 60 days. And I looked at them and I said, "If I move it in 30, you'll give me $25 million, and you'll give me all of my land for free," because they'd all written it down to 0. We did it in 17 days. We got a giant discount. We got $50 million worth of land for free. I went to Bank United in Miami, to my old long-term banker that had been at that bank before. I got a $25 million loan against the land, and we were back in business. And today we're number 4 in the country, okay, for industrial, okay, and we have sold in the last 3 years, as I said, I think roughly $883 million of land. And today, again, based on consistency, vision, and focus, we are super heavy in cash. We raised our first fund in December that we had been working on for 18 months. It was part of the long-term solution. And in that long-term solution, we wanted a fund to function like a JV. We know we have the best promote in the country. We are a pari passu to an 8. I get 40% over an 8, and I get 50-50 to 14. And nobody in the U.S. has it. But every time I step to the table, based on our reputation, our return rate over the last, over the last 11 years since that fateful day in August, our return rate's been 42% over term. And we brought in roughly, I think you could read it, we brought in $471 million in profit. All to the bottom line, split between our partners and us. And we always, as I said, get 40% of the take. So that's what consistency and vision and planning and focus does for you when you're on your knees and you got to battle it back. And if you haven't been through a rough time, as they say, this ain't easy. It's just not made for everybody. Quickly, how are we doing on time, Tim? Okay, or about done? About 5 minutes. Okay, so real quick, product over the next year. What's going to change is over the next 15 years is delivery. I think that industrial will continue to climb. Present focus. I think I've answered that. Building relationships. God, all I can say is be nice and say yes. Take care of people. Truly, the more you give, the more you get. It's like in college. If anybody ever lent me their car, I returned it with a full tank of gas. Okay? You couldn't believe that how often they wanted to lend me their car. Okay? Right? Greed never, ever, ever wins. Right? It's kind of like, it's not very cool, but then I'm not very cool. So, strategic planning, I think I've talked about that. Effects of inflation. So interestingly enough, from an inflationary standpoint, look, costs are off the charts. Steel is up more than 50%. What's it going to do? 50% every year? It's impossible to keep up with. Rents are rising. Rents are 10% over last year. Okay? How long is that going to keep up? What are we going to pay? $20 for a loaf of bread? Right? Something's going to pull back. We've prepared ourselves as a company for that pullback. And we'll see what happens. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I feel a little silly right now. We stopped the accounts. We raised a fund, which is done. And we have all of our land that has a value today, as I said, nicely over $100 million. We have everything paid off. We're all nailed down. Where are we going? I don't know. I'm not sure where we're going. Okay? Because the economy doesn't look like it's slowing yet. But we might be really smart and prepared early. Remember, I said to the last group, just take 50, $100 million bucks, okay? On a promoted deal, and we're always going to promote out because we're going to get the elasticity out of the promote, right? On a promotional basis, $100 million at 50% leverage on a 90-10 basis buys $2.2 billion worth of real estate. So if the market cranks back and we get a recession, and everybody that bet in Miami at 35 to 50 bips, okay, and that goes to nothing, they're going to be over their skis really quick. And those that have prepared well, and it only took me one really good lesson in 2008 to understand preparing well. But if you didn't live through it, you don't know how to do it. It just sounds good, okay? So the relationships are just paramount. The strategic planning is paramount. What was the last thing? Industry challenges. God, everybody wants to be in industrial today. All the people that were in retail or office, because ain't a lot going on, okay, in those two factors. Ask the brokers, ask the institutions, okay? It doesn't mean that there's not money to be made, but then I'm biased, I'm an industrial guy, but everybody wants to be in your space today. So it's driving all of those land prices up like crazy. And people are paying, as I sometimes say, some of these institutions are writing checks that their bodies can't cash. And it'll be interesting to see what the future is. Any other questions? Gosh, you've been great to include me. I love being here. As I said, I'm not very good at this. You can see, most of this is from the gut and from the heart, but this is all I kind of think of 24/7. right? Except 3 girls and a great bride. And I know this is, hide behind here, but one of my daughters just graduated UGA, and we flew into Indianapolis the other night, went to the game, and then came home. And all I can say is, how about them dogs, huh? You guys, thank you. You did great.